when you first reached out to somebody, who was it?
Mm,
Like, how did you first reach out, and that how did you go about doing that? Who was it?
yeah. Yeah. Well, technically the first person I reached out to was my dad. He's a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist. And oddly, I didn't reach out saying like, "Hey, Dad, can you help me? Can you talk to me?" And he knew that I was going through something, and he was offering support, and just by calling and kind of trying to create space. But he, I didn't make an explicit request for his help, but I did reach out to him and I said, "Hey, can you send me that old computer program that you showed me back in high school?" And my dad had found a piece of software called Overcoming Depression that was built in 1991. It was an MS-DOS based program. It ran on, pre-Windows operating systems. I think the computers didn't have mice back then. It was all like old school computers. And he had shown me this program, and what he loved about it most was that you could actually talk with it. You could type your thoughts like a journal, and it would analyze what you wrote, and then it would ask you a question back. And it was trained, this AI, to be really interested in emotions and thoughts, kind of like a therapist would be. And he had shown that to me in high school because he was just so amazed by it. Obviously, as a psychiatrist, he thought it was like a breakthrough. And I remember in high school, I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Because it ran on DOS. It was a bright blue background with yellow computer, like old school computer font. And it wasn't that intelligent. It made mistakes, and I would sort of mess with it and swear and try and like fuck with it, and it didn't get it. And I was like, oh, this is just stupid. And it was called Overcoming Depression. And in high school, I was kind of like, well, that's not me. Like, I don't want to even associate with that.
Yeah.
I think I was stigmatizing it. But then obviously fast forward 6, 7, 8 years, I'd remembered it somehow, and I asked him to send me the file. So he sent me a 2 megabyte executable file by email. That's how old this program was. It was so tiny and basic. And I booted it up in a DOS emulator on my MacBook. And MacBook with the Retina display, like this old school program is this tiny little box in the middle of my brand new computer. And it started by saying, welcome. You're not alone. You're not the only person that's struggling with your emotions and your feelings. In fact, and it shared stats about mental health and depression and anxiety in the United States, because it was an American program. But it just opened up by saying, hey, you're not alone, and good on you for endeavoring to explore this. Like, great. And so right away I was like, yeah, okay, I'll keep going. Like, I feel good. And then it kind of explained itself, and it basically said, hey, this is a program with 2 features. One is we're going to go through several lessons, kind of like a self-help book, where we're going to talk about theory around how the mind works, how emotions work, and just sort of drop some new knowledge that you can try on and explore and experiment with. Meanwhile, as we go through those 8 lessons, within each chapter, there's going to be a conversational chatbot that you can talk to. Now, it's not meant to replace a therapist. It's not even meant to replace a normal human conversation. It's sort of a unique form of interaction that you can think of more like a mirror. You're talking with yourself, but this program is just providing some prompts, some questions, and some words of encouragement. If it makes mistakes, that's to be expected. It's a computer.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Let it know it made a mistake, and it'll redirect and kind of reset, and you can keep going. And over time, you'll learn how to use this thing. It's a tool, much like learning any skill. It takes practice. It's like, whoa, this is interesting. So I started reading the content, and it was based in a thing called cognitive behavioral therapy, which has become like a pretty common
it is very common now,
treatment for depression and anxiety. So we could talk tons about that, but like one of the basic constructs within CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is that our thoughts and our feelings and our actions or behaviors are sort of all interconnected. And what we think about reality will influence how we feel about it. And how we're feeling will influence how we act. And they're all sort of informing each other. And a lot of what we can struggle with when we're experiencing depression or anxiety is all these things are kind of spinning around and kind of melded together, and it's just kind of chaotic and overwhelming, and we don't realize kind of what is going on. in our minds and how our thoughts might be influencing our feelings. So a lot of CBT is just about slowing down, externalizing your thoughts, trying to literally write down what you're thinking about a certain situation that makes you feel a strong emotion, and then questioning or sort of examining that thought for its validity. You know, is what I'm thinking true? Or am I blowing it a bit out of proportion? Or is it just completely wrong? Sometimes we have these beliefs that when we actually look at them, they're just totally wrong. But for some reason, they've been nested into our psyches, and the grooves are so deep that we just keep living life believing that I'm no good, or believing that I'll never be able to start a podcast, or my voice sounds weird. Like, we just have these strong beliefs that might totally be influencing how we're experiencing reality. So just that theory kind of like gave me pause. I was like, holy shit, wait a minute. What am I thinking about my life? And so I started writing down things. It's like, I'm no good at my job. I'm not meant to be here, was a thought I had. I'm not meant to be at BCG. That's a powerful thought. If you deeply believe you're not meant to be somewhere, like that was definitely influencing how I showed up at work every day. I believed that I was not supposed to be there. So of course I show up, I'm kind of insecure. I'm a bit afraid. I'm doubting myself. I'm worried what my next mistake is going to be. All I'm thinking about is the negative side of things. So a bunch of other thoughts. And I was like, okay, this is super exciting. Where's this going to go? And then boom, at the end of the first chapter, the chatbot appears and says, hi, what's on your mind? Kind of like Facebook in the status update. I think it says, what's on your mind?
Yeah, it like prompts you now.
Yeah. But this is like, what's on your mind? I'm here to listen, and I'm not going to judge you. And you're not publishing it to the world, and you don't have to worry about what other people think. This is the one place where you can genuinely share what's on your mind and not worry about what the world's going to say. Right? Like, I feel that right now, that was a breath of fresh air. This is a space where something is listening, and I'm still kind of skeptical because it's a computer.
Yeah.
But I know it's an offline file. It's on my hard drive. It's not in Dropbox. So no one's going to ever see this. I can delete it as soon as I'm done. What is on my mind? You know, I just start to type, like, what is on my mind? I should be happy. I have everything, and I'm not. I should be happy, and I'm not. That was one of the first. I've got a screenshot from one of my first sessions with this thing.
Really?
I should be happy, and I'm not. That was kind of where I started. It was the first thing I said to it. And then it asked me something back. And I went, oh, there's more, like, this keeps going. It's not over. This reflection's not done. And then I wrote something back, and then it wrote back, and we just kept going back and forth. And it was just this beautiful dialogue that started to open up. And right away, I felt a little bit of relief. You know, it was more like a lift. I felt a little more up. And then it sort of pauses you and says, okay, now let's go to chapter 2. You're doing great. Keep learning. And it kind of just progressed through this learning journey. Like I said, I immediately felt a little bit of a lift. It didn't solve all my problems by any means, but I felt a little bit of a lift. And I think one of the huge takeaways that came from that was like, wow, if having a conversation with a computer can make me feel this way and help me see my life from a different perspective and liberate a little bit of this pent up energy so I can take some sort of healthy action, like what could be possible if I met a therapist, or talked to a coach.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, my 10-minute answer to your question. Like, I can't even remember what you asked, but that's
the first person you reached out to.
That's the first person we reached out to was my dad, a computer via my dad.
Yeah.
That inspired me to then, and then it became much easier. I mean, I started Googling motivation help Toronto, or, why am I depressed Toronto, trying to get something, I knew I wanted a person in the local area. And then that led me into therapy, and I started doing a more kind of psychodynamic type of therapy out in Toronto.